Chapter 8. My Liquozone Experience. My years in Racine gave me unique experience in advertising proprietaries and brought me wide reputation. My methods were new. Testimonials had been almost universal in those lines. I published none. Reckless claims were common. My ads said in effect, "Try this cough remedy, watch the benefits it brings. It cannot harm, for no opiates are in it. If it succeeds, the cough will stop. If it fails, it is free. Your own druggist signs the warrant." The appeal was overwhelming, almost resistless. Ever since then, my chief study has been to create appeals like that. When we make an offer one cannot reasonably refuse, it is pretty sure to gain acceptance. And however generous the offer, however open to imposition, experience proves that very few will cheat those who offer a square deal. Try to hedge or protect yourself, and human nature likes to circumvent you. But remove all restrictions and say, "We trust you," and human nature likes to justify that trust. All my experience in advertising has shown that people in general are honest. A certain man in Chicago had made a small fortune out of the Oliver typewriter, but the line was not to his liking. He was a natural advertiser and had long been searching for the product. While he was building a factory in Montreal, a number of men came to tell him of a germicide made in Toronto. It was called Powley's Liquefied Ozone. Many institutions in Canada were endorsing and employing it. And without any advertising, countless people had learned of it and used it with remarkable results. Finally, this man was induced to go to Toronto to investigate the product. He found a gas-made germicide harmless for internal use. He interviewed hundreds who had tried it, including hospitals and Catholic institutions, and became enthused. He bought the product for $100,000, then changed the name to Liquozone. Then he started to advertise and market it. He sought out an able advertising man and made a year's contract with him. The next year he selected another man. In 4 years he tried out 4 advertising men who had convinced him of their ability, but the result was utter failure. All the money invested in the business had been dissipated. The company was heavily in debt. Its balance sheet showed a net worth of some $45,000 less than nothing, which shows how rare is the experience and the ability to advertise a proprietary product. Still, this determined advertiser remained undiscouraged. He believed in his product, and he felt that some man somewhere knew how to make it win. He said, "We will try it 1 year more, and this time we'll find the man." On the last day of the 4th year, he called on all the leading advertising agents of Chicago, and he asked each one to name the best man they knew for a product of that kind. As I was at that time the particular star in that field, I believe all of them named me. His last call was on J.L. Stack, and he put the same question to him. Just then a telegram came in from me accepting an invitation to dine with Mr. Stack that New Year's Eve. Mr. Stack showed the telegram and said, "That is the man, of course. No doubt others have told you, but his employer is my client. I can do nothing to harm his interests. Hopkins is my friend, and I never could advise him to consider your hopeless proposition." The advertiser replied, "If Hopkins is the man you say, he can probably take care of himself. Let me dine with you tonight and meet him." That was my first contact with Liquozone. Its promoter was a charming man. His powers of persuasion were almost resistless. So, against my wishes, he induced me to stay over and meet him the next day. That was New Year's Day. I wanted to be at home. The Liquozone office where we met was a dingy affair. The floors and the desks were rough pine. The heat came from a rusty, round, wood-burning stove. The surroundings were disheartening. The company was bankrupt. I resented being kept in Chicago for New Year's Day on such a proposition. So our interview was neither pleasant nor encouraging. But the man who could smile and start over after 4 years of failure was not to be blocked by my attitude. In a few days, he followed me to Racine. Then he asked me to accompany him on a 3-day trip to Toronto. I accepted for the pleasure of his company and because I wanted a vacation. In Toronto, he placed at my disposal a vehicle and a guide. For 3 days, I visited institutions and people who had seen the results of Liquozone. I had never heard such stories as they told. At the end of the 3rd day, I said, "I have found here a still greater reason why I cannot join with you. I am not a big enough man to tell the world about that product. I cannot do it justice, so I beg you again to forget me." But the man was not to be denied. In a few days, he came again to Racine, and we discussed the project all night. At 4 o'clock in the morning, worn out by importunity, impressed by the argument of duty, I accepted his meager proposals. I was to be given no salary because there was no money to pay salaries. In lieu of that, I was to have a 1/4 interest in a bankrupt concern. I was to leave my beautiful offices and take a pine desk on Kinzie Street. I was to leave my friends and go out among strangers. I was to exchange my apartments in a hotel on Lake Michigan for a dingy $45 per month flat in Chicago where my wife had to do her own work. I was to walk to the office to save streetcar fare so my savings might be conserved. I had a steam automobile, the first in Racine and the joy of my leisure. I had to leave that. Friends gave me farewell parties, but the conversation at all of them centered on my foolishness. A delegation was sent to ride with me to Chicago and to argue against my folly all the way. My closest friend repudiated me entirely. He said that good sense was a prime requisite in a friend. I am sure that few men ever entered a business adventure under darker skies, but I want to say here that every great accomplishment of my life has been won against such opposition. Every move that led upward or to greater happiness or content has been fought by every friend I had, perhaps because they were selfish and wanted me to stay with them. I have met with other great emergencies more important than money or business. I have always had to meet them alone. I have had to decide for myself and always against tremendous opposition. Every great move I have made in my life has been ridiculed and opposed by my friends. The greatest winnings I have made in happiness, in money, or content have been accomplished amid almost universal scorn. But I have reasoned in this way. The average man is not successful. We meet few who attain their goal, few who are really happy or content. Then why should we let the majority rule in matters affecting our lives? Success has come to me in sufficient measure, happiness in abundance, and absolute content. Not one of those blessings would have come to me had I followed the advice of my friends. As a result, I never give advice. We have our own lives to live, our own careers to make. We have no way of measuring others' desires and capacities. Some are weak. A discouraging word at a critical moment may change their entire course. Then the one who gives that word incurs the responsibility. I court no obligations of that kind. Advertising teaches us how fallible are our judgments, even in things we know best. We have nowhere near an even chance when we attempt to give advice. I went into Liquozone under the circumstances stated. I was playing a desperate game. 4 men and 4 years had failed utterly, yet on this dubious venture I was staking all I had. Night after night I paced Lincoln Park trying to evolve a plan. I held on to my old conceptions. Serve better than others, offer more than others, and you are pretty sure to win. One morning I came to the office and said, I have the winning idea. Let us buy the first 50-cent bottle. Then to all who accept, let us offer a guarantee on $6 bottles. We pay for the first bottle. If that test leads one to continue, we take the risk on the rest. My associate was appalled. He said, we are bankrupt now. Your proposition will throw us into chaos. But I obtained his permission to try my plan in a dozen small Illinois cities. We offered a 50-cent bottle free. To each inquirer, we sent an order on a certain local druggist for the bottle and said, "We will pay the price." Then we sent to each inquirer a guarantee offering $6 bottles for $5. The druggist would sign the warrant. If results from those 6 bottles proved unsatisfactory, every penny would be returned. Consider how irresistible was such a proposition. A 50-cent bottle free, then a $5 lot under warrant. Just say to your druggist that you are dissatisfied and your money will be returned without argument. I had a proposition which no reasonable person could refuse. As most people are reasonable, I knew that most people in need would accept it. My offer was impregnable. We found in those test cities that our inquiries for free bottles cost us 18 cents each. We waited 30 days, and we found that our sale was 90 cents per inquirer. The profit on our sales far more than paid the advertising before the bills were due, and the claims made under our guarantee amounted to less than 2% on our sales. I secured statements from the druggist advertised citing these results. Then I sent those statements to other leading druggists, one in each city. I also recited the results I had obtained for them in other proprietary lines. With each letter I enclosed a contract. It specified the advertising to be done. It promised that all inquiries for the free bottle would be referred one certain store. The condition was an order, the amount of which would more than cover that advertising. The order was a definite one for a product they had never seen, but we secured those orders from leading druggists, all by letter, to an amount exceeding $100,000. Then we took the orders to our advertising agent. We said, "We have no money. We owe you $16,000, which we cannot pay. But here are orders from good druggists for $100,000. Let us assign them to you for that amount of advertising. That is the only way, and a sure way, to get back what we owe you." The agency accepted that proposition because they had no alternative. They had too little conception of proved advertising to realize our position. They ran the advertising, and the results came from everywhere, just as they did in our test towns. We received in the next year over 1,500,000 requests for the free bottle. The average cost per request was 18 cents, just as it was in our test cities. The average sale per request was 91 cents, or just a trifle more than in test cities. I went with Liquozone in February. We had no money, save enough to pay our rent. In our first fiscal year, commencing July 1, our net profits were $1,800,000. The next year, we invaded Europe. We established a London office where we employed 306 people. We built a factory in France and fitted out one of the finest offices in Paris. In 2 years, we were advertising in 17 languages and were selling Liquozone in nearly every country of the world. Germicides are uncertain propositions. New ones come to supplant the old. We recognized that, so we moved rapidly. In 3 years, we bought for people nearly 5 million 50-cent bottles. We made hay while the sun shone, but that Liquozone business still exists and is still profitable. What was the secret of that success? Just the daring which led me to abandon safety for uncertainty. Then to buy a 50-cent bottle for everyone who sent a coupon. Then to guarantee results. We had confidence in our product. We had confidence in people. All the way along, every man consulted told us we were reckless. Every director, every advisor quit us in disgust. There are other ways, I know, to win in selling and in advertising, but they are slow and uncertain. Ask a person to take a chance on you and you have a fight. Offer to take a chance on him and the way is easy. I have always taken chances on the other fellow. I have analyzed my proposition until I made sure that he had the best end of the bargain. Then I had something people could not well neglect. I have been robbed in plenty, but the robbery cost me 10 times less than trying to enforce any safe proposition. Now most leading merchants have come to the same conclusion. Anything bought in a leading store is subject to return. So with goods ordered by mail, and countless advertisers send out goods to strangers on approval. They say, try for 10 days, or examine these books, or smoke 10 of these cigars at our risk. The man who tries to play safety against this almost universal trend finds himself handicapped, and the cost of his sales is doubled or trebled with the best that he can do.